Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
And it's time for Catching Up with Diana Zoppa. Hey, Diana, what's going on?
Hey, Gary, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing
lots is going on.
I'm doing great too. You know, I've been sitting on my butt here in the office, merely hitting refresh on Kitco, watching how much money I'm making, and wondering, am I really building wealth? Am I conserving wealth? Or are they just going to come after me when it's time?
Well,
Not to be paranoid. I don't think I'm that important in the scheme of things. There's subversive people out there who are giving them a lot more trouble than me, but it's kind of an inevitability, I feel.
Well, the number one rule when you own hard money assets is you don't tell anybody where it is or how much you have, first of all. That's a big rule because, in the 30s, they did confiscate it. And that was...
never keep it in your house, man.
Never keep it in your house, and do not tell people where you have it. And, that's actually, a good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just kind of funny, even looking at the stocks, which have been in the, well, you know only too well, they've just destroyed by government manipulation, the whole mining sector, precious minerals, precious metals, the whole manipulation over the past year. It's easier to subvert the stocks, to suppress the stocks, than it is to suppress the metal. But you can suppress the metal by suppressing the stocks, and that's what they've done. And they've put people out of business. They've really hurt people. So now QE3 comes along, and they're saying, oh, it'll be minor, 23 billion, and then we'll go to 40 billion. But we all know it's going to be hundreds of billions, if not trillions, because the money that the government needs to operate has to come from someplace. They can't get it from tax collections because U.S. wealth has been depleted by over 40% since the Greater Depression started. So where else do you get it from? And that is the printing press.
Mm-hmm. But that's not going to last forever, as we know. I mean, the collapse is imminent. It just can't. They cannot continue to do that. And we were discussing the Frank Giustra interview that he did with Cambridge, and I recommend that, and we should post that on your site for people to access. I loved it. That interview was amazing, and he put some really interesting thoughts into perspective for me. And, I love the way that he utilized saying the terms quantitative easing, using money printing, too big to fail. He utilized all of these words that, these are all words that have come into effect over these last few years that you never heard before because, they're trying to console people, and trillions of
dollars. And it's a big scam. It's using semantics. It's using linguistics to try to make people not believe their own eyes. And your eyes tell you the same thing as me, and Salenti's eyes, and Sinclair, and Peter Schiff, and all of these people. Casey, I can go on. In fact, I've got a dedication in my book, acknowledgement, and I've got about 100 people in there. You and Sean are both on there as well, because everybody who's been a contributor to the show has contributed to helping you open your eyes so you see what's going on. And it's a simple matter. I didn't just tell people to buy gold because I think it's nice and shiny. That's not what this is about. What this is about is preserving wealth, and even the opportunity to build wealth in the case of silver, which is ridiculously underpriced, not just in the market, but its price versus the price of gold. And you're going to see that go up. It just slashed through. We're on September 13th now, Diana. It just slashed through $34. It's at $34.35. The hell or high water number, and I'm not a technical investor by any stretch, and I don't really know anything about it. I do like listening to technicians because they sound like so sure about things, and this is going to happen and that. But I feel pretty confident that when silver pushes through $35 an ounce, which will happen shortly, there is nothing to stop it from setting a new nominal record price. There's nothing holding these metals down other than algorithms in London and in New York. And the influence of those algorithms has been proven. They can't keep the price down when demand fundamentals go up. And that is always the case in the fall, where you have the Indian wedding season and a lot of things taking place, you know. So it's just interesting that that I don't know if I'm making money or just preserving wealth, but I'm content right now to do either one of them, especially preserving wealth. There's really nothing else you can do here when you've got the world inflating like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and, you had asked me to watch that Justra interview, and I'm going to keep kind of going back to it because we wanted to use that as a basis today. Sean had given it to me a couple of weeks ago, and I just hadn't had a chance. But, one of the things that he discusses in there is, people who are counting on inflation to gain their wealth, or people who are thinking that there's the deflation. So, people who are believers in the deflation mode are the cash holders, and the people who are in inflation, which he says it's a lot easier to make money during inflation, and those are the gold and hard asset people, right?
Oh, yeah, so it's simple, really. I don't think I'm a genius by any stretch here. And, going back to that, because I think that was really important. What he talked about there is that it's kind of the Will Rogers joke, the old Will Rogers joke. He was a comedian around the turn of the century, last century in the U.S., and from Oklahoma, and he had a rope. He was real folksy, and he said, invest in inflation. It's the only thing going up. And, that has kind of become my byline, because there's a lot of wisdom in those words, because, the trend is your friend. And if the trend is inflation, you can do things to protect yourself, protect your wealth from being stealthily confiscated, which is all inflation is a tax. Inflation is not prices going up. Inflation is monetary units being created, leading eventually to cost push inflation and prices going up. But in the act of a price going up itself is not inflation.
Mm-mm. Which brings us to penny candy.
Yeah, penny candy. I've got it. I'm like guilty. I haven't read it yet. I'm reading 4 books on my Kindle. One of the bad things about getting ebooks is that, like, you'd go to the store, and I used to buy 7 or 8 books at a time, sometimes when I was really reading hard books. But with a Kindle, you could just keep buying them, and then they're on your thing, and it's really aggravating because you look at the Kindle and you say, oh my God, I've got 10 books and I haven't read them. I'm so deficient. How can I do this? So
and you keep buying more on top of it.
Exactly. People buy more books with a Kindle than otherwise because delivery is so easy. So I've got this book. It's a hard copy, but I don't always have it with me, but I promise by next week I'll have it done, critiqued, and linked so that the world will know about that book, because I did read the intro. I love the book. I love the simplicity, because, people are stupid about this stuff until they get smart about it. And the easiest way to get them smart about it, I'll show you one little technique that I have used that makes me acutely aware of the value of money. You see these 2 things I've got holding up here?
Yes.
Right? They are 2 U.S. silver eagles. And originally, I was just carrying one. Mark Skousen over at Freedom Fest gave it to me. Said, this is how you get the message across. And at the time, this coin was worth $27 when he gave it to me. And when I put this one in my pocket a few weeks ago, it was worth $27. So that means the 2 of them were worth $54. Oops, dropped it. Now, the 2 of them are worth almost $69.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's the same 2 coins. Nothing happened to these coins. They have the same physical identity, the same properties. They didn't get any heavier, and yet these have gotten more valuable, and this stuff, what I call green stamps, fiat currency, has become worth less. It buys less of that. So there's a direct relationship between the silver in my pocket and the paper in my pocket, and it's not favoring the paper at all. You know what I'm saying?
What is the actual value of a fiat dollar, do you know, today?
A fiat dollar, probably, if it's printed, it probably costs about 10 cents to make. It's worth 2 or 3 cents compared to the original fiat dollar when the Fed was created in 1913. So it's worth 3 cents.
So, and in the 70s, when it was still printed on the US dollar that it was in exchange for the dollar of one silver dollar.
Right.
Right. So the dollar in 1970 said that a silver dollar could be redeemed for that. So it doesn't say that on an American dollar anymore. But of course, there you have it. A dollar today is still showing intrinsically as a dollar, but that coin is valued at 27 or now today 34.
34, and a silver dollar, which, we use 90% silver in the States for our change up until 1965, when they converted to copper clad, or as my friend David Morgan calls it, the Johnson slug. And, I have to go look now and see what a silver dollar is worth. And there's a great site that you can go find the value, the melt value, the actual metallic content of any coin ever minted in the U.S. It's called coinflation or coinflation.com. I like to go to it because it really tells you the value of copper. So a nickel is now worth over 5 cents again, a U.S. nickel. All right, let's go down the list here because I think it's fascinating. Mercury dime, Roosevelt dime, they're worth $2.50. Okay, a Washington quarter is worth $6.26. A $half is worth $12.52, and a Morgan dollar, which they stopped making in 21, or a peace dollar in 35, is worth $26.79. So
you have it.
What was a dollar in 1964 is now worth 26 of these paper dollars. So do the math. I mean, it's worth less than 4%, right? Because it went up
Exactly.
over 25 times. Four times 25 is 100. So it's worth less. It's worth about 3.5%, which means that $1913 is worth probably a penny at this point, and on its way to becoming worth less.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, this goes back to the inflation, and that's what the basis of the Penny Candy book is all about, just inflation. Why is it today that, a penny candy that we bought in 1970 is basically costing 25 or 30 cents today for that same one piece of candy? It's not because it costs more to make it. It probably has a little bit of that adjusted in today's date, but primarily it's inflation because the dollar is worth that much less. And that's the whole basis of the book, and that puts it into a very clear picture in very layman's terms. And so, you'll be able to whip through that very simply.
Yeah, maybe I'll do it for lunch today. I'm going to get Chinese. Going to get Chinese around the corner. One of the great things about working in Greenwich, Connecticut, I mean, if you work in a city, like, you're in Vancouver, you got great restaurants. But if you don't work in a city, it's hard to find good places. But in Greenwich, there's about 150 restaurants within a 5-block area because there's so much ridiculous wealth in this town. And, there's so many good places. You can always find a place to have a good meal. So anyways.
Well, good. You're looking forward to Chinese food today.
Yep, definitely. I certainly am. And I just have to, hold on one second. I just have to send an email to somebody. So let me just cut this.
Are we on cut?
We're on cut right now. 15:18 cut. All right, hold on one second. I had another interview. I couldn't figure out who it was scheduled with, but I think I just figured out. So anyways, all right, we're back. And so we've got this Justra interview, which was done by Cambridge House. it's definitely must viewing for anybody who cares. And I don't even want to go into the Mid East other than to say that it's going down the tubes very quickly. It's going to blow up, and if that isn't a plus for precious metals and oil and every other commodity, I don't know what is. One of the interesting things we don't really talk about that much, other than where I'm going for lunch, is food, Diana. And you see a lot of the world. Food is really becoming a luxury, if you will, rather than a necessity. Because when you make $5 a day and your food bill is $7 a day, you got a problem. You got to find $2. And when the government you hate is repressive, then what do you do?
Mm-hmm. What do you do? Well, you either have to find another job so that you're earning more money and work harder, or you have to cut your expenses and figure out an alternate food that's going to fit into your budget. It's one or the other.
Exactly. So,
and
or you riot, you go crazy, because as our mutual friend Gerald Celente says, when people lose everything, they lose it, and when they can't eat, they get when they don't have enough money to eat, when they're starving, they get very upset.
Yeah, no, that's that's absolutely for sure. I mean, we're going to. I don't like using the word hope, but I mean the fact is that people need to get this into their minds that this is times are changing and you have to protect yourself. And so what is it that you're going to do that, right? So you have to think about the future always and be planning for it. And so making these adjustments in your life to not live beyond your means and basically get yourself in line so that you're organized, so that you're got the basics covered, are going to be really essential in this next little while.
Yeah, that's for sure. No matter where you live, no matter how well you think you have it, you need to prepare, because to me the best example of this was Katrina. The anarchy that we had, the disorder, and the whole breakdown of the distribution system. And you saw people, what were they stealing? Liquor and flat screen TVs. And there really wasn't much you could do with the flat screen. The liquor, I guess, you could drown your sorrows away. But preparation is really key, which is why everyone listening, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and buy some food. I just bought some. Company's great. All prepared food is going to lack a little something, but as far as how this tastes compared to most of else, what's out there on the market compared to MREs, far superior, highly recommended, and it's pretty damn cheap too. So,
well, I think everybody needs to have some kind of a preparation kit in your home for, staying alive for 72 hours at a very minimum. I mean, we've got into this conversation somehow, but I guess, the fact is that, anything could happen. I mean, you can have, depending on where you live, I mean, you can have any kind of a catastrophe, but I guess we're sort of, saying for any kind of, civil riotry or whatever, to be prepared. But I think we have a little ways before we get there, and who knows when that will happen. But and again, I'd like to go back to the idea that if we can get people thinking the right way to make changes to prepare, it's a very difficult situation to change with politicians, because they are lying constantly and they know the truth. So there's, and again, going back to the Justra interview, he made this one point about the Federal Reserve, in the sense of that there's not going to be a Volcker very soon, somebody who steps in and raises the interest rates very quickly so that things get back onto some kind of a normal level. That type of independence, he said, went out with the 9/11.
Yeah.
And, when he made that point, it's very clear, that the Fed works constantly with Wall Street and the government to get their desired income. And, it's a big manipulation. So here we are back at this conversation again. And the only thing that you can do is protect yourself. So first of all, you have to learn what's going on in the system and why it's happening. Then you
Exactly.
need to understand what you need to do for yourself, because you are fighting a losing battle in some ways. I mean, we're seeing this with, the country being divided in its philosophy right now. And so primarily from there, when you see people who are going to, want to be on entitlements, or at least half of the people in the US are, getting some sort of a government subsidy, whether they work for the government, get food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid. I mean, all these programs that are in place that take up all this percentage of taxes that are, coming into the government. So basically, what is it that you're going to do? You have to find ways to be prepared for when, everything hits the fan. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yep.
And
The
so,
SHTF moment.
exactly. And the people that are prepared and who are ready for this, if it never happens, guess what? You're there and you're ready. If it does happen, you're well ahead of the game. And he also goes into using, sort of the Aztecs and the Spaniards with regards to, just how, they became an empire. They,
I don't
had all
quite
this
agree.
wealth.
I
You
don't
didn't
quite
agree with
agree
that?
with him. I think the U.S. is much closer to being Rome than to
Yeah.
being Spain. I don't believe that the Spaniards ever really created any wealth. I think the Spaniards were masters at stealing it. Now you could go
Oh,
into
now there you go.
yeah, you could go into saying, well, the U.S. United America stole the land from the Indians. Okay, but I'm not going there. The
Yeah, no,
point
I
is,
think
yeah,
I think he was referring to the idea that they just became wealthy when they discovered all this gold. I mean, it was just, they became like an overnight success. And I mean,
yeah,
it's, when you have that much wealth like they do, and then I think that he was comparing it to basically the Fed and utilizing, the
yeah.
printing kind of thing, and being in this power dominant situation, going out there, spreading imperialism, that type of idea.
I kind of see it as, there's some valid parallels to it, but the Rome parallel really, really is the one for me because, look, you go to architecture, road building, um, you know, all of these things, justice, arts, all these things that America
Right,
excelled at. Spain never excelled at that other than
right.
building very gaudy churches. They were great at that and enriching the church, to try to buy their way to heaven. They were really good at that.
Hmm.
Um, it wasn't a culture found on the work ethic. It was strictly exploitative. The US and Canada and the Western, you know, modern Western world was built on providing value and turning a profit and capitalism. And, but I know what he said as far as arrogance goes of the culture, the civilization, and, making war on people that they just don't agree with. I'll buy the parallels there, but that's where I kind of think it stops. But
Hmm.
anyway, you should really take a look at this video. I feel that this guy's a multi-billionaire. He's been on the cutting edge of so many different natural resource companies, precious metals companies, and he wrote an article in 2003 explaining exactly what is happening now. So he's somebody you have to take, you really have to pay attention to, but you should ignore his idolatry of Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton, to a large measure, is why a lot of things have happened to date that shouldn't have. And, Bill Clinton is the baby boomer president, narcissism and live for today and illusionism and all the other things that the sociopathic politician excels at. So
Yeah.
aside from that, it's a great
Well,
thing.
Clinton lived off of a lot of efforts that were put forth by presidents before him, right? And I mean, he's
Sure.
responsible for the housing change in laws, and
Oh, him and
between
his
him and
boy,
Greenspan,
yeah,
I
and
mean, they
Cuomo.
made a lot of regulation changes at the time, which really, now we are feeling the effect of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you think about, I know he was associated with him, and they had a partnership together in this fund. But I guess people align themselves with people for specific reasons, and you can have different beliefs, and do business with people that have different beliefs than you, I guess. So.
Yeah, well, I think
He's actually a
yeah.
Vancouver. He's from Vancouver,
I know.
and his first wife is a friend of mine.
Okay. Well, that's all right.
I've known them forever.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because Bill Clinton is always the kind of guy you'd like to hang out at a party with, have a couple of beers with, and tell jokes, tell dirty jokes. He's an engaging rogue, is what it comes down to. My friends played golf with him many a time. I live literally a mile and a half from Bill Clinton as the crow flies. Seen him around town. I just kind of keep my distance because I feel like I could easily get corrupted by him because, he's just that devilish kind of persona who looks really good on the outside, but, lacks a lot on the inside. So what else got here?
You should come to the Seed event.
Yeah. Hey, he'd probably come. So
I should send an invitation. Just kidding.
Yeah, sure. Why
no.
not? He's the demon.
Anyways, so what else have I been doing? Well, interviewed David Morgan this past week, so he's going to be coming up. Got a few other.
He's a good
people.
Friend.
Yes, he is, and of course, I mean, it's just it's a good time for silver, so we thought it was a good time for the interview. You can see what's happening, so that'll be really great. I have just been really, really busy with the event. I mean, I cannot express how much effort goes into putting a project like this together. But it's going to be great. We've got a great trade show. We've got some really wonderful sponsors that have come on board, and actually Guildhall Wealth Management out of Toronto's come on, and we're going to align him with Celente. So the Celente presentation is going to be very fantastic, and he's going to give a good talk, and he's going to have lots of food or fuel for the fire, or just food content for the event. And we're just working on media right now and getting exposure, and there's contests that are running, and so tickets are going. It's we want to sell. We have a capacity up to 3,500. So
wow.
So hopefully, we'd love to sell out. We've projected for between 28 and 3,000. So that's, our target goal.
Excellent. And that's October 13th, right?
October 13th, Vancouver, and it's still sunny and gorgeous in Vancouver every single day. We are having a beautiful fall, and the sun sets a little quicker now because we're in the northern hemisphere here, so the sun sort of is flashes by. It's already getting dark by 8 o'clock. But having said that, the days it's kind of like being in the desert up here right now. It's hot in the day and chilly at night.
Well,
so
all I can tell you, Diana, is enjoy it because it ain't going to last. And I like your site, seedevent.org. Education, experience, enlightenment for everyone. So if you're looking to get enlightened and to figure out where you need to head and where a good direction for your life is, it's probably a real good place to go. seedevent.org. And on that note, hey, to listen to this interview again, and if you want to hear other interviews that Diana and I have done, and you're looking to hear world financial luminaries, financialsurvivalnetwork.com, you should check it out. A lot of good things on that site, and it's really up to date. And speaking of up to date, Diana, the price of gold right now, again, it is September 13th, 2012, and we're on at 1:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gold up $35.20 to around $17.67 the ounce, and silver up $1.18, broke through that key $34 support, $34.49. So these are indeed interesting times. Diana, we'll talk to you next week.
Very good, Kerry. You have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, be well.
Okay.